Welcome to episode 2 with J.R. Cundiff, longtime Oakland County resident and friend of ours here at the station. Just talking about J.R.'s life. We're just kind of getting by the Korean War period here. You weren't allowed to go in the service because of a physical issue. You couldn't have a tetanus shot.
Right.
So let's pick it up there, and then once you established that, what was the next thing that you did with yourself as far as working or your life?
Well, I worked at a place in Louisville, Kentucky called Reynolds Aluminum. It's Reynolds Metals or Reynolds Aluminum. And I worked there for about 5 years or so. I was working there when I got married to my wife.
Mm-hmm. What did you do there?
Just anything in the plant. I was kind of a guy that could do anything. I was lucky again. So if somebody wouldn't come in or something, then I'd go and do their job. And this one girl didn't show up for a couple of days, and I was working on a punch presses with a bunch of women. Mm-hmm. And after about the third day, she still didn't show up, and it came on the news that she was killed, and found her in a park.
Oh my God!
And I tell you, I just felt really bad because I was doing her job and she was laying there dead.
Yeah. Now, at that time, was Reynolds just starting to grow, or were they big time at that time?
They were big time.
Were they?
They really were. They made foil. They made all kinds of stuff. Yeah. The evaporators that are in your refrigerator like that for your coils for your.
Yes.
Well, we done that. We made those.
Oh.
And then they made extruded aluminum for the Nash automobile around the windows. Mm-hmm. And we just made a lot of different things. And they done what they called electrical stuff. They dip it into the tank and charge it with electric current, and then it would anodize it. So that's where you get the anodized aluminum.
Did you have any other jobs while you were working for Reynolds?
No, my dad and I went into the paper hanging and painting business and all. We had one of those 3-story stages that you hook on the building.
So you started learning some of his skills?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
Yes. Even when I moved into my house that my wife and I built, I hung all the paper in the house. Mm-hmm. And painting, I still love to paint today, but I can't get up and get around like I used to.
You said you met your wife while you were working for Reynolds, is that correct?
No, I went to school with her brother.
Ah.
He was 5 years older than her, and I had known my wife since she was 9 years old.
Oh, I see.
Her mother died when she was 13. Her father died when she was 14. And you grow up really fast when you lose your parents. She was only 15 years old when we got married, but she was 5'10" and weighed about 150 pounds. She wasn't a little woman, and she didn't look like a little teenage girl. But now we did wait a couple of years before we had our daughter. And she liked about 6 weeks being 16. Mm-hmm. But we waited a couple of years before we had our daughter, and so she wasn't born until my wife was 18.
Right, so she married you about a year after her father passed away, didn't she?
Pretty close, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that had to be tough.
It was tough for her, and then her mother died of a brain cancer, or a brain tumor. And then her father, I think he slipped and fell in the tub or something, had some kind of head injury.
Now, did you continue to live with your parents at that time, or did you move off on your own?
The first night, even after we got married, we had our own apartment because we went up there and we had her sister, her foster sister, went up with us because they wouldn't let us go up there by ourselves because we weren't married, to do the apartment and clean it up and everything. Well, things were different back then,
Yeah, you had to follow the rules on the straight and narrow.
It was like having a chaperone, even though her sister was there.
Let me ask you this, since you brought that up. Was religion a big thing in your life?
Not mine, no, but hers, yes. She went to a Lutheran church. We were married in the Lutheran church, and I went to a Baptist church. I went to a Lutheran church. I went to a Catholic church. My sister married a Catholic, and she turned to Catholic, but I don't want to say that I'm an atheist, but I'm what they call an agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
It's somebody that has to have proof. And I know I'm talking out, I know I'm being drink all this stuff, I know all this. But my problem is, if he is so almighty and everything, why are kids born with no arms, no legs, deaf, mute, can't see, blind? They didn't live here long enough to even commit any sins. So why should they be punished?
Right.
I mean, that's just my individual belief, and I just can't believe that there's somebody out there that's powerful that does that.
Did your wife continue with her religion after you were married?
Not so much. We got baptized in a non-dimensional church that we went to.
Tell me about the rest of your time at Reynolds.
It wasn't too long, because like I said, I started dating her, and then we got married in '54, and I worked out to show you what the difference was. Now, when I got paid for 40 hours after the taxes, I took home $51 a week. Now they're making $50 an hour some places.
Times have changed, huh?
Oh, they sure have. The world has left me behind. I tell everybody, technological stuff, I don't know that much about. Don't care to. It's just, I don't know. Every time you turn the TV on, somebody's hacked into somebody, or somebody's bullying somebody, or I've seen two kids sitting on the couch texting each other, not even talking. They're losing their social skills.
I know. What made you leave Reynolds?
That's when my brother-in-law called me. I was making $1.78 an hour in the factory. And he called me and said he'd get me a job for $2.25 an hour just for labor. And I said, that's 50 cents more than I'm making now. I'm on my way. So me and my wife came up here.
So that's what brought you to Michigan?
Yeah.
And what was your first stop in Michigan? Where did you live first?
Pontiac.
Really? Whereabouts?
Well, there was a couple of places. It was on Auburn Road there, just east of Woodward. East of Woodward. And then after that, we bought trailers, and we lived in the trailer court on Updike, but it was right across the street where they built the Silver Dome. That used to be like a motorcycle place. And all the hills and stuff, you'd run up and down, over there. Then they built the Silver Dome over there.
So you were working for General Motors?
No, I still work for construction.
Oh, this was a construction job?
Yeah.
Tell me, what were you doing?
Most of the time, I've done a lot of construction for the footings, putting in the footings for buildings. Then we got the jobs, we start putting in the decks.
Were you working on a particular project there for a long period of time when you first moved up here?
No. First job I ever worked on right here in Pontiac was the courthouse. The old courthouse.
Okay.
Then I helped build the first building on Oakland University. It was the Kresge Library.
Yep.
On Squirrel Road, I think it is.
We need to take a break. We're going to pick up on that.
Go ahead.
We'll be back in just a minute. Back with our friend J.R. Cundiff, talking about your first construction job. That's what brought you up to
Yes.
Michigan from Kentucky.
Right.
And the reason, obviously, was better wages.
Oh, yeah.
And what year was this roughly that you moved up here?
1955.
1955.
I had been here before.
Right.
In 1950, September of 53.
Uh-huh.
I came up here and then I went back to Louisville again. I left Louisville several times, but I don't know how. I had to go back, but I guess because my wife, I had to meet her again and again, you know.
So, okay, you were working on the courthouse, Pontiac Courthouse. That was one of the things you were working on, right?
Yeah.
Was that...
It was on Water Street, I think.
Was that an exciting job, or
No, it was just
just a paycheck?
yeah. I don't know, I was just one of those guys that just done what I was told without asking why.
Did you rent an apartment at that time, you and your wife?
No, that time I was up here with my brother-in-law and my sister, and I lived with them. I wasn't married then, not the first time.
I see, okay. No, I mean the second time when you came up to work on the courthouse.
Yeah. No, that was the first time.
That was the first time, I'm sorry.
53, that's all right,
Misunderstood.
John. It was in 53 when I was working at the courthouse. But no, when I came up in 55, again, we moved into a trailer because we was in construction and I didn't know when I was going to have to move. So, but then we lived in a trailer about 7 years, and then we bought our own house.
And what project were you working on the second time you moved up here? Do you remember?
Not offhand, I don't, John,
Okay.
really. Because, like I said, I worked on so many things, almost all the colleges, I worked on high schools and everything, hospitals. I helped put an addition on St. Joe.
Did you eventually fall into one particular skill in construction, or did you just end up doing a lot of different things?
No, I was a carpenter for
Okay.
61
A
years.
carpenter.
Yes.
All right.
Union carpenter. And no, I just loved what I'd done. I don't know, it's just like going into a room and painting it, and when you walk out, you can see what you done.
Sure.
Well, that's the way I felt about construction.
Now,
you know?
you have a daughter. At what point was she born?
1956.
Okay, so it was right around that time.
Well, I joined the Carpenters Union in August of 56, and she was born in October of 56. And that's why I say we waited 2 years. We were married in 54, but the daughter wasn't born until October of 56.
Right.
And
Was your wife pretty much a stay-at-home mom?
at first, yeah, but then she had 2 or 3 different jobs. She worked at Sears for one time, and she worked at a coin shop or whatever in the Summit Mall. A coin shop, and they dealt in gold and stuff like that. And she worked in that for some.
Let's go back a little bit to talk more about the cleft palate situation and how you got away from that. Tell us about that, would you?
Yeah, because I was 50. It was 1953 or so.
You were still down in Louisville then?
Yes. In fact, I wasn't even married yet. And I just got tired of being, again, the truth. I just got tired of being bullied and picked on and made fun of. And
Different.
yeah. Well, when I walked into a room, no matter what room I walked into or what I walked into, everybody would turn and look right straight at me. I just felt out of place. So I borrowed the money on my own and went to have it fixed. And then after that, at least I felt like I was human.
So that pretty much settled the problem.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. Was there a long healing process with that?
No, not really. The funny thing about our family, we heal fast. Even I had both knees done. The next day I was up walking. Not at the same time, but I mean, next day I was up walking. My daughter come up and picked me up at the hospital, and we went out and ate at the restaurant. We heal fast.
Did the doctor have much sympathy for you in that you were one of a lot of people who had to struggle to come up with the funds to do that sort of thing?
No, I asked him how much he wanted, and he told me. I went to the loan company and borrowed it, and
Yeah.
took him, paid him cash.
And that took care of that.
Yeah. I just don't know. And I know, like I said, I don't mean to be bragging, it's the truth.
Yeah.
But I just basically raised myself.
Sure.
I had a great mother, and had a great father. He never spanked me or nothing. Mom done all the whipping. But it's just the things that we had to go through because, like I said, I wasn't the only one.
Sure.
Half of the world was that way,
Right.
you know.
But between that and the Depression, you were pretty tough.
What's that old saying about the school of hard knocks?
You got the degree?
Yes, I am sitting here with it.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to construction in Pontiac.
Go ahead.
Was there a point at which the job changed for you, where you went to the next step, or became a different kind of carpenter, or how did that evolve?
Not really, John. Once you're a carpenter, you do what you're told. There's not actually an expertise. I mean, there's some carpenters that are finished carpenters that work inside the buildings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was what they'd call a rough carpenter. And I worked on foundations, and we've poured the floors. Then we'd strip out the stuff and take it up to the next floor and put it back in again. And, you know, floor after floor after floor.
Were there any memorable buildings in Pontiac that you worked on?
Well, I worked on the telephone company building.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on the courthouse, like I said. And I worked on St. Joe's Mercy Hospital. And I can't think of any more right now, just offhand. But I'm going in my mind around Pontiac.
Do you have any particular memories of your early days in carpentry on some of those buildings, some unique things that happened?
No.
Or unique people that you ran into?
I know there was one building we had, and we was getting ready to pour concrete, and the crane reached out too far, and the crane broke in half and fell across the building and dropped the concrete bucket through the floor. But nobody was hurt.
You had a physical challenge, or your wife had a physical challenge.
Yeah.
When did that come along?
Well, I think it was after our child was stillborn, 61.
Okay.
I think it just got to her.
That would have been your second child, is that
Yes,
correct?
yeah. And
Tell me about that. Tell me more about that.
Well, they called me at work, and I went to the hospital, and I walked in the room. I still wearing my hard hat and everything, and she said, you know, he's dead. And I said, well, you know, honey, it happens,
Yeah.
you know.
We're going to pick up on that in just a minute. We have to take a break. J.R. Cundiff is with us. Come back.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Each year they take in hundreds of dogs and bring them into suitable homes. A certified nonprofit organization, Canine Dog Rescue strives to give pound dogs a new leash on life. To donate, adopt, or even volunteer, call them at 248-628-0435 or go to their website, dogsaver.org, and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
Back with J.R. Cundiff here on My Life. You were just telling us about when your second child was stillborn.
Yes.
Could you see that coming, or was that a total surprise?
No, I was home. I mean, I was working on the Lapeer Hospital in Lapeer.
Yeah.
And she called me, and they called me and told me she was in the hospital. what happened was the navel cord came out. And then when she tightened up with panic, and she could feel the dying, you know. So I think I got to her in time, and she had a breakdown in '78. And
It was a tough situation.
yes, it was. Well, I took him to I had him picked up and taken to the funeral home, and then I took him, had him buried. Now she was still in the hospital.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing the right thing, but maybe I wasn't. Maybe she should have been there too.
Yeah. Was this down at St. Joe's or?
She was no, it was the old. Well, they didn't there anymore, but it was called then the old General Hospital, Oakland on Huron Street there.
Pontiac General?
Yeah.
Okay. You worked on some projects in Detroit.
Yeah.
What were they?
Well, there was a gas company on the corner of Woodward and Jefferson Street. It was about 30 stories high, and it was only like 125 feet square. It was straight up. You can see it today when you look on the skyline, even on the news. And then I worked on the Renaissance Center, and then
Now, did you work way up there with no walls around you?
on the 30 story when I did, I worked outside the building, stripping off the panels on the outside.
And you didn't have a safety belt on?
Didn't have nothing on till OSHA came along. And just put a belt on that man.
Any memories of that project?
Well, I know one
You
thing.
didn't get hit by any birds or anything up there,
No,
did
but
you?
we took an elevator up for 15 floors on the outside of the building. And then we had to walk the last 15 floors up, climb ladders and get up. And but it was all fun, John. If I had to do it over again, I'd do it.
Yeah. You know, I've talked to people in other professions, like plumbers, for instance, and I ask them, okay, so, you know, now that you've had your life doing that, when you drive by some of these homes or buildings, do thoughts come to your mind about what you'd worked on inside?
Yeah.
And they'll say something like, yeah, I can tell you exactly how that drain was put in and that,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. Is that similar for people like you who've been involved in some of these big projects?
Well, I have a knack, and I don't know what it is, John. I can go to a restaurant, and I look at all around there, and I'll say, that's not straight. No, this is that's not right. And my wife used to say, JR, you're not in building trade now. But I used to just nitpick.
What was the last project you worked on?
Oh, good night. Oh, Chrysler Tech out there on. They just built that Chrysler Tech
Yes.
out there. I was hooking up 14-foot wall panels, and I fell off a 14-foot wall. And landed all my weight on my left foot.
Oh my goodness, you fell 14 feet?
Yeah, and I broke my left heel. And they didn't know whether to put me on disability or not, so
Yeah.
the insurance company called me, and I went to their doctor, the one that they recommended. And I walked in there, and he saw me the way I was walking, and I didn't have a cane or anything then. He said, well, just walk down the hall a little bit. And I might have walked 20 feet, but maybe not. And he just called me back. He said, come on, back here. He said, you're disabled. He said, I'm not getting you out there. Because I used to walk 4x4s, 4x6s that wide, walking I-beams and something. Now I can walk across the floor without falling sometimes.
Let's talk about your wife some more. Her problems, her physical problems continued, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the things you were dealing with during her last years. I mean, you had to take care of her for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, for a few years.
Tell me about that.
Well, she was in a wheelchair for 14 years.
And the reason for that was?
She had what they call neuropathy, which is the pains in the feet from diabetes. And she couldn't walk, and I was taking care of her, and my nephew, which he worked in construction with me and everything, he's a good friend of mine, my nephew. And he asked me one night, he said, JR, what would you do if your wife fell on you? Because she weighed about 200 then. And I said, I don't know. He said, you'd probably both lay there until somebody come to get you. And I said, you know, Leon, you're right. I never even thought about it. So I made up my mind to put her in a nursing home. It's the saddest day of my life. And she asked me, she told me, she said, what are you doing, put me in here to die? And I said, no, hon, I'm really putting you in here so you can therapy and learn to walk again.
Were you still working as a carpenter at this time?
No, I was retired.
You were
That's
retired.
it. I had to retire.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
With the foot. But it was tough. She was in there almost a year before she passed away.
Okay.
She's on dialysis for 3 times a day, 3 times a week, and almost 5 hours a day.
It was tough.
And she just got tired of it, and she said, JR, I just don't want to do it anymore. And I said, well, Norma, if that's what you want to do, I'm going to stand behind you.
How many years ago was that?
2070, or 27, I mean, 2007.
2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, so about 11 years ago or
Yeah,
so.
about 11 years ago.
Yeah.
I asked the doctor, I said, Doc, just level with me. I said, if she goes off for her dialysis, I said, what's the chances of how long she's going to live? He said, well, JR, he said, usually 4 to 6 weeks, he said by that. But she lived 14 weeks
Wow.
off of dialysis. But he said, that's one thing, it's like a blessing. He said, because it's the quietest, best way you could die. He said, because everything just shuts down and you don't know anything about it. There's no pain, no nothing. So she died.
So what did you do then? What was your next move? Were you close to your daughter?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Did she live in the area?
She did. Then when after the wife died, then her and her husband moved in with me for a while.
Okay.
And we kind of take care of each other, you know.
Uh-huh. Does she have a physical issue right now, or?
Well, she has a closed head injury,
I see.
and her husband is her caregiver, but he takes good care of her. In fact, I told him one day, I was talking to him, I said, Aaron, I said, you know, if my son had lived and he turned out like you, I said, I would have really been proud of him. And I treat him like a son. And he does everything for me.
You've had a lot of challenges in your life, haven't you?
Not really, not any more than anybody else. I guess it's just what you do is you get up in the morning and you handle that day the best way you can, and you go to sleep at night and you say, well, I've done that. And then you get up the next day and you say, well, here's another challenge, I'll take care of it. And everybody does the same thing.
If you could do it over again, would you change anything?
Other than not losing her so early, she was only 68 years old. But other than that, I wouldn't change a whole lot.
Yeah. Nice having you. Thanks for coming over.
Thank you, John.
All right. Thanks for joining us.